Have you heard? KushCon is headed to Tampa this August 6th and 7th. Network with more than 7,500 hemp and cannabis professionals, sample products from more than 300 brands, and take in over 70 educational sessions. Do you work in cannabis or hemp? KushCon Tampa is the only place you can meet directly with the nation's largest distributors and retailers. Get tickets and learn more at kush.com/KushCon. Plus, listeners of this show can save 50% on tickets with promo code PODCAST. Again, that's kush.com/KushCon. See you there.
Everything that's developed over millions of years, and our bodies understand how to process fruits and raw vegetables without pesticides. That's how we got here. That's how our bodies know how to interpret things. And that's what blows people's mind when they're first introduced to us. And what worked for us was, oh my God, you're juicing cannabis? I've never heard of that before. But you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, the show that inspires, promotes, and gives you a daily dose of inspiration from the people who have used cannabis to change their lives in extraordinary ways. Here's your host, Justin Benton.
Welcome back to the Miracle Plant Podcast, where we discuss this miracle plant with so many names and how it's helping people in so many extraordinary ways. Well, today it's a celebration. 100th episode. Pretty wild to think how far we've come, how much we've done, how many people we've talked to, how many lives we've changed. Obviously, so much further to go to reach 1 billion people by 2025. But today we're just kind of look back and, discuss some of the fun conversations we've had over this past 100 weeks. So we've published every Wednesday or late Tuesday night every week, and for 100 consecutive weeks, which in and of itself is quite an accomplishment to have the consistency to continue to put out new material every week for 100 weeks. So that in and of itself is quite an accomplishment for everyone here on the team, and Dan Humiston's a co-host, along with my mom, Janet Benton-Gallard, and who is writing her book. And it's an accomplishment and a testament to you two for being here and contributing, and obviously for Dan, who provides the platform for PodConx, is the platform that he provides for podcasters to share their mission or share their story through a podcast related to the cannabis and hemp field. So just humbled, honored, happy, celebratory, and excited to be doing podcast number 100 today. And we have a very special gift we'll be talking about here at the end, so make sure you stay tuned. But it's going to blow your mind, as we try to do here often. So what do you think, Dan? Janet, 100th episode. Pretty crazy, huh?
It really is. I remember when we talked about it as an idea that, maybe we should have a podcast, and just to see 100 episodes is amazing. It's been a long journey for your family or my family, our family, and then all the many, many people whose lives we've touched. And we can't talk about kind of our beginning episodes, even our beginning, without talking about where we started, which was coming up for a solution to your son, my grandson's severe autism. Had a nonverbal guy that couldn't talk and didn't relate to anybody, and he couldn't even measure IQ because he didn't respond to anything. And to just see where we are now, where he's a super achiever everywhere, and we are helping people around the world. So anyway, the 100 journey is very important. And I think it's great to stop and reflect on where we've come and who we've helped and where we're going next.
Absolutely. What do you think, Dan? 100 episodes. I know you've been heavily involved, and we've gone from trying different softwares to publish, to you packing up and traveling all over the country and setting up microphones, to finding Clubhouse, where we are broadcasting live 10 a.m. here on Saturday Pacific time on Clubhouse. And the journey for when I originally called you and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a podcast and sharing these incredible stories, because I'm getting blocked on all these other mainstream avenues to just talk about this product and talk about this plant. And here we are, 100 episodes in.
That's most podcasts. The average podcast lasts 7 episodes. I know people think that's crazy, but because it's a lot harder than you think. Everyone thinks that, well, it's, you just get a mic and you just start talking, but there's a lot more to podcasting than just getting a mic and talking. And the great thing about the Miracle Plant podcast is the stories that we tell are just so compelling. And I think is part of the reason why A, it's been so popular, and B, you've been able to maintain a consistent every week new material, new stories. It's a real testament to the people that we're talking about and the stories that you're featuring, but also your organization. I mean, what your mission is. It validates that you're sincere, that you're committed to this billion people by 2025, because this is just one leg in that of a many leg, or one pillar in a many pillar strategy to get there. And I commend you, Janet, your whole team, for just staying focused on this, because I know it's making a difference.
Absolutely. Well, and again, thank you so much for all you've done, Dan. And I've sent some more people your direction. I know Latara was on our last episode and she was wanting to have a podcast. And I don't know if that registered when I said that's what Dan does, but that's what Dan does. And so, and Dan has made it so easy for me to, just get the material over to him, and his team gets it all out there and post it. So major kudos to you, Dan, for making it easy, because it isn't easy, but you make it easy and your team makes it easy. And if anyone's thinking about starting a podcast, then you should reach out to Dan at PodConx.com. But anywho, so reflecting back on some of my favorite episodes, I know one of the coolest things that here's something maybe to encourage you, if you have that little voice inside of you saying, God, I really want to do a podcast. First thing is, number one, do you listen to podcasts? Do you listen to Audible? Right? We all have different ways that we learn. A primary, best, optimal way to learn. Like some people are visual learners. They like to read or watch videos. Some people like to listen, or audible listeners. Some people are like kinesthetic or experiential based. They have to do it or they have to touch it to learn, and we all can learn from different ways. Like, for example, for me, I love podcasts, right? Because I love to multitask. I love to do 8 things at once. And so I can do a podcast while I'm at the gym or driving or doing whatever else it is. It's really, really, and with all the technology, I love it. Like, I literally sat there and thought the other day, I was like, what did I do before Audible? Like, Audible changed my life, because when I read a book, it literally puts me to sleep. Now, if I have to read a book, like in college, then you read it, right? But nowadays, sometimes when the books come out, like a really cool book that I want to read, and it isn't on Audible, and like people that I truly respect recommend the book, or actually wrote the book, then I'll read it. But I love to listen. I love Audible, and Audible has changed my life. It has allowed me to get so much more information crammed into my brain, and podcasts have done the same thing for me as well. Incredible. The other thing that I really love about podcasts is, now that we've hit 100 episodes and we've hit some major big topics, like I remember the time I was talking with Dr. William Courtney, and we were doing it was a podcast and a show kind of thing all at once. And he was talking about how cannabis, raw hemp juice, basically kills cancer cells. And he went through and he walked through it. And as he was saying it, I got chills, because I knew that this was going to save people's lives. And so that was an episode, I think it's like 44 or 46. And then we just hit that one topic that Dr. William Courtney, was an inspiration to us in and proving and showing that raw cannabis, raw hemp, CBDA primarily, but the whole plant, not just one molecule, but the whole plant, is what helped my son have neuroregenerative properties in his brain, and no longer carries the diagnosis of autism, but he was testing it 10, 12 years ago and having tremendous results with people with late stage cancer. And so now I can take that podcast and I can forward it to people who are battling for their lives. And and a lot of people, when they're dealing with cancer, will, it's shocking to the system, and cancer was the thing that got me to go all in this mission, to stop everything else that I was doing. When I saw what it did for Gudrun, for us, and watched her cancer go away and go into remission by taking our oil, was the primary thing that she changed. And so when that happened, that was just awe-inspiring, shocking, that I felt such a calling to do this, to share these stories on the Miracle Plant podcast, to get these products in the hands of people who are fighting for their lives. And so, and when you have a podcast and you have an episode that you can just forward the link, right? And it gives it a level of credibility. It gives it a platform that someone could stop and listen, and they can take that podcast and they could forward it on to a friend or a family member, or they can forward it on to a doctor. Because when you listen to that podcast, you'll be like, oh my God, like that's really how it works. And he's a doctor who researches raw cannabis, and he's telling you exactly how it kills cancer cells. Like, what more do you want, doc? Right? And so when people are going through cancer in our country these days, it's like, it's all like, it's overwhelming, of course, but it is just a signal your body's telling you that something is off, right? Something is off. Something is not right. These cells are mutating, and they're not getting rid of like they should. The body should be able to isolate and get rid of cells that don't belong naturally by itself. But if there's something that is off, then that's when cancer spreads, whether it's diet or pesticides or some external factors that are being that we don't even know about. But something needs to be off. And so much of it, obviously, that we've talked about a lot here with the pillar of food, nutrition, and supplements, that health really sits around. What are you putting into your body, right? What is it that you are physically putting in your body or on your body that could be contributing to that, right? And so just by having a podcast where you can send it to somebody and say, there's the answer, point blank, because so many people, when they get that diagnosis, they're immediately told, you need to do this. You need to go into surgery right now, like literally same day. Like no second opinion, no third opinion. This is what you do. We're going to put you into surgery. We're going to put you on this radiation therapy. We're going to put you on this chemotherapy. And if you don't do it, you're going to die. And like, that's some powerful stuff, especially when you're programmed and conditioned to believe the guy in the white jacket is the one that got all the answers, right? Because he went to medical school and missed the parties and just sat around and studied. And so it's overwhelming for people. And who else is telling them these things? Where else are they getting this information, right? My mom raised me holistically, so I understand to question shoving a white pill as a solution to fixing a problem, right? And so that's where I got my, pause, like, okay, and it's funny, like, when we'll get in like a bumper, a fender bender, right? Or you got, I got, a little ding I got to get fixed in my car. We'll go get 3 estimates, right? Because we don't want to get ripped off, right? And we want to go do our search. We want to do a Yelp search and make sure they got good reviews or what Google reviews or something. But when it comes to like your health and maybe the fight for your life, it's just like we get suckered into just doing whatever this one person tells us. And they may have the best intention in the world, and they may be trained with the best thought, but get a second and a third opinion. And maybe from some different philosophies. Okay, that's your philosophy, that's great. That's Western medicine's idea of how to deal with the issue. Good to know, thanks doc. Let me get back to you. Then maybe go talk to a doctor who believes more holistic, natural, plant-based medicine. Maybe talk to a dietitian. Maybe get all of your blood work, maybe get a second opinion, right? And that's what's so beautiful about having an episode like that one, is that it encompasses, here is another opinion. Here is another way, a proven way, for you to discuss and make your best, most well-informed decision for your life. Again, this cancer was what, just drove me to go all in. I'm talking with this great guy called chrisbeatscancer.com, and he beat cancer. He's wrote a book. We'll have him on the podcast, I'm sure, soon. And he actually, I just been reposting some of his stuff on my Instagram. It's at the Justin Benton. And he basically was juicing. And we have a common friend who's going through brain cancer right now, and he's juicing just like we did with our son, and he gets all of his carrots and his kale and everything like that. But right now, I haven't been able to break through to our mutual friend about the power of just adding in the hemp component to your juicing, and because there's a stigma there, but now again, because we have a podcast. And because we can start working together and having each other on different podcasts, I can go on his podcast, he can come on my podcast. I can break through and maybe save someone's life. Now, it's not for me to save someone's life, it's the plant. And it's your own body to help heal itself, setting your body up for homeostasis, having your fully supplemented endocannabinoid system. And that's a line that we got from Dr. Lakeisha, who's been a guest on a couple times. A fully supplemented endocannabinoid system. Just like when Dr. William Courtney talks about, if you ate cannabis, hemp, whatever you want to call it, daily, you wouldn't have to use it as medicine. It is a dietary essential. Those are his words that have been on this podcast. So those are just a couple episodes and a couple topics that really resonate with me, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So Dan, Janet, do you guys have some favorite topics or some episodes that you can look back on and think that was a good one, or one that you like to listen to a few times over?
The one thing I wanted to say before I'll let Janet talk, but I wanted just to say this to follow up on something that you kind of, how your podcast is sort of has mirrored the cannabis industry and the hemp industry, in that there's so much progress when you look back at the last 100 episodes of your podcast, and how much better it's gotten over this time. And sometimes when you're just doing it day to day, you don't appreciate the improvement how much improvement there's been and how much progress you've made. And that's sometimes we have to stop and take a minute to celebrate milestones like 100 episodes. And I think the same thing is true for cannabis, and I think and the hemp world, in that we need to sometimes take a pause and say, look at how much progress we're making. Look at how many lives have been changed by this. And look how much, I know it's not moving quite as fast as everybody like it to move, but we're making a lot of progress, and efforts like yours are part of that. It's all everyone working together towards this common goal. And I it just gives you goosebumps when you think about how much more we can do and how much potential there is, but let's not forget about how much progress you've made so far. And that's in this, and I look at it the same way with the podcast, how much progress you've made with the podcast over the last, it's been a couple years now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's been quite a journey, and we started the podcast in the midst of the lockdown pandemic thing. And, because again, it was another way to break through all of the issues that we were having, getting our message out. And again, I just want to thank you for all your hard work. I annexed you to become a co-host. And, I love that you're here and always dedicated. And it is pretty crazy. I know, like my mom says, and she'll weigh in here too, like, why isn't this up on billboards that cannabis or hemp shrinks tumors, right? Because if you just Google it, like all the power and the money that Big Pharma has, they can't suppress that. Right now they can't. They haven't been able to. You just Google it, you'll find it. It shrinks tumors, right? Like we have a raw relief topical, which is just cold pressed hemp that my mom designed and created. And you just rub it on like a liver spot on your arm, or a wart, something that's an irregularity, a precancerous, type spot. And take a picture every day for 14 days. And then shoot me an email, or just keep it for yourself. I don't care. But watch what it does. And the fact that we have something that's natural, that doesn't have any side effects, that is just growing, that can grow in your backyard, or you can order online in our country, and we mail to any state, and we mail to most any country, unless the country's like super crazy. We don't want to get you in trouble. But other than that, we'll send it, even if they're behind the times on CBD. We had some friends over last night from Denmark, and they're behind the times with CBD. Actually, one of them was a pharmacist, and her husband, actually, her father's going through cancer, late stage, and I offered to give him some, but he had already tried some type of similar product, and unfortunately, because the product didn't gel with him, he wasn't open to it. And that's another thing that's shifted over the years with the podcast, The Miracle Plant, is in the beginning of the podcast, it was much more about just teaching people what CBD was. And I would be shocked of the people that know what CBD is, could actually say CBD is an abbreviation for the word cannabidiol, right? And who made that word abundantly famous in modern times? Dr. Raphael Mechoulam in 1963, when he released the first studies on it. And in fact, he came out to CanMed in 2019, which I think was before the podcast, I believe. So 2019 he came out and told the world that our products made with CBDA are up to 1,000 times stronger, more bioavailable, more effective than heated isolated CBD. And again, that type of information should be everywhere, right? And we had a podcast episode with Oregon State, when that information came out, that was published in PubMed, that the CBDA and the CBGA, in fact, even THCA was studied, which is the raw form of THC, that is not psychoactive, will not get you high, was showing that it was prohibiting or restricting the COVID virus from attaching to the ACE receptors. And so, again, that was another one of those watermarks for us, where people you start to see companies carrying, CBDA product lines, which is exciting. Unfortunately, the vast majority is just an isolated white powder, single molecule that looks nothing, acts nothing like the plant. But at least it says on the tincture, CBDA and CBGA, and they'll throw in some zinc or vitamin D or something. And again, it's still taking that pharmaceutical model, right? That single molecule. Do you think we've got to where we are as a species by just eating vitamin C? Like you just go to the vitamin C tree? No, you eat the orange with everything that's in the orange, all the nutrients, everything that's developed over millions of years. And our bodies understand how to process fruits and raw vegetables without pesticides. That's how we got here. That's how our bodies know how to interpret things. And that's what blows people's mind when they're first introduced to us. And what worked for us was, oh my God, you're juicing cannabis? I've never heard of that before. But you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Subscribe to Hemper's monthly smoking boxes, and you'll never be caught needing to replenish your stash again. Hemper is hands down the best place to stock up on your smoking supplies, no matter the occasion. Curated with innovative and hand-selected products to ensure you are getting the absolute highest quality accessory for your smoking experience. Hemper's monthly subscription service provides $100+ in value for only $40. There's also a convenient option to receive one every month, one every 3 months, every 6 months, or yearly. Plus, listeners of this show get an additional 10% off the Hemper box or the Hemper XL box just by using product code MIRACLE10. So go to hemper.com, Type in product code MIRACLE10 and get started today.
So anyways, I'll let my mom talk. I'm sure you've got an episode or a topic or two that speaks to you there.
I have 2 pages of notes. Um, no, and one thing about the podcast and actually everything we're doing is so different from many people in the industry in that we're speaking from passion, the passion to heal and the passion to help people. And so profit is in there somewhere so we can survive. But I think we're very unique in the whole hemp field in terms of we didn't jump in to make a bunch of money they were predicting. We were led to it as it became literally the salvation for your son and my grandson with autism. And then as a psychologist working with autism for a decade, I just have to always mention that when I started, autism is 1 in 15,000 children, 1 in 15,000. And now it's 1 out of 20 to 1 out of 40 and increasing all the time. And no one seems to know about it or care about it except the parents or the grandparents of the children involved. And so to me, one of my missions, along with the importance of using healthy approaches to dealing with anything, is just getting the word out about autism and that we have something that helps, and we don't guarantee anything. But for instance, I do a free Zoom calls, getting to be around the world now, just at askjanet.org. And I hear the same stories over and over and over, and I see the same success stories over and over and over. So one of my biggest passions, wherever I go, I try to carry cards and pass out my cards. Like, if you know anybody with autism, pass this on to them, because it is hard to be heard over the noise of the people with the big marketing budgets and the people that have, like Martha Stewart's or Cheech and Chong or whichever one of them is doing it, that already have name recognition. And so the podcast to me has been a huge way that we can get the word out. And like Justin mentioned, send it to people. We just keep trying more and more to reach out to people. So again, too, I'm always looking to find people with autism that I can help. And then I also, as an integrative nutritionist, also totally believe that our diet is critical in anything that we're doing. And then the ultimate, I don't even call it a supplement, but the ultimate thing our body needs is the raw CBDA. Our bodies have receptors for it. It's the only plant on earth that our bodies have receptors for. We evolved together. And then just like we see in the store every day, when you keep it raw, it's like fresh squeezed orange juice. And then you have some CBD products that are more like a juice box, and then some that are nothing but like I'd call Kool-Aid or Tang. And so consumers just don't get the information out there in terms of judge which one's the best and which one isn't and why it works. And so we still explain almost every customer that comes in as a new customer the benefits of the raw CBDA. And the research is behind it, the experience is behind it. It's proven over and over in our work with people. But again, too, I think the podcast has been great trying to get that word out there. And so again, too, I'm so excited to be the 100th. I remember we talked about starting it. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And we have to thank Dan, too, for keeping us on our toes and being there every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, wherever we are and whatever any of us are doing to keep this going. And so again, too, I can't emphasize enough, it's kind of like how we are mistreating our planet. Now we have what we call climate change, which is basically all negative things. And we're doing the same to our bodies, just in terms of eating all these synthetic foods and addictive foods and foods with all kinds of additives and foods full of Roundup. And so we're kind of in the same method of trying to think we can outsmart the body through science and outsmart the climate through science and outsmart the rivers through science and technology. And so again, too, kind of along with that's to me a movement of let's see how our body really worked. Let's see our body function for millions of years before we started doing all these new things. Actually, in about the last 70 years, most of what we've changed has happened then. So again, too, I'm just so grateful to be on the podcast, so grateful to get the word out and just pass it on. CBDA from hemp works.
Love it. The other thing that I love about a podcast, of the many things that I love, is its legacy, right? Like, sometimes you don't think about those kinds of things, but like this podcast, these words will live on forever, right? Like people can listen to this, that we're discussing raw CBDA and how it was helping people so much. Like 300 years from now, they could be listening to this podcast and, you know, Lord knows what computers will look like, like you would, like the real cloud. And they could be like these, like, look, these, they knew, Like, wow, like these were the people that actually knew that they went old school. They went back, they took a step back, and they went back to the plants. They figured it out, and this was the part of the movement that changed the world, that really like lifted, raised consciousness. Because the path that we're on, we all know, like intuitively, like the path that we're on right now, especially in the US, but we're all kind of connected now. This doesn't lead to a very happy ending, right? We need to make some serious changes when it comes to the planet, the way we treat each other, the things that we consume, whether it be news or food. And technology is beautiful and it's wonderful that it allows us to have access to all this information. But we need to make sure that we're letting all of the information get out there, especially in our country, right? Because that's what we were founded on, right? I mean, freedom. We wanted to be free, whether it was separation of church and state, or the oppressors. We wanted our own freedom. So we crossed the pond, we put our stake in the ground, we stood up to the British, we got our independence, and it was all based on freedom. And the freedom is being challenged where we are right now. People are restricting access to information. Why are they restricting access to information? Unfortunately, it comes down to those three sad words: follow the money, and you'll find your answer. But the podcast, right? And that's the other great thing that Dan has built a platform, right? Because we all saw what happened with Joe Rogan and Spotify. We all were watching, because, I think Spotify cut a check for like $150 million to host Rogan's podcast and to keep him there. And then he had some controversial guests on, right? Because that's what he does. And he had some doctors on that had very well-informed opinions. And the masses, including the news, mainstream media, and people around, put pressure on Spotify to take Joe Rogan off, right? And we all have seen how that pressure, this cancel culture that we live in, has been working. But who's behind it is what I would ask you to find. Like, why? Aren't we all like adults, right? Why are you restricting information, especially from a doctor who wants to say what he has on his mind, especially in this country? That's what the podcasts do. It allows us to talk. And if you like what you're hearing here, then you can tune in next episode. If you don't, go find another podcast or go find something that speaks to you. But the beauty of a podcast, especially when it's on a separate platform, like Dan, and I bet Dan's probably gotten some, some pressure before. And I was concerned to even tell Dan about my idea of starting Miracle Plant Podcast, because I have been shunned and canceled and had bank accounts closed and marketing accounts shut down and all kinds of things that when I write the book on that, which is in process, I'll talk about it. But that's another thing that's beautiful about PodConx is, because Spotify got some heat, and, these are privately controlled companies, and Apple, and they have stock, not privately controlled, public companies that have stock and investors, and they can push buttons, especially if there's billionaires and trillionaire industries that say, hey man, that's not cool. We don't want that episode. That hurts our bottom line. Get rid of that episode, right? Whereas they could do that to us on Spotify, or they could do that to us on Apple, but they can't do that to PodConx, right? Because Dan set up a platform that's proprietary and moved away. And Dan started this just for cannabis and hemp companies, right? So where does Dan's allegiance lie, right? Well, if you know Dan, he's showing up here and, putting in the most valuable commodity that he has, that any of us have, which is our time, to see this thing through, to see this mission through, to help the plant, and to get the truth out there. So podcasts are, it is one of the very last places that we don't have FCC oversight. We don't have billionaires telling us what we can and cannot say. This is true freedom. This is pirate radio, baby, right? And so that's what we're so excited to celebrate 100th episode of the Miracle Plant podcast. So people who want this information, who need this information, can have access to this information by having a podcast. So any thoughts on that before I tell everybody about this crazy, awesome gift we want to give to our audience?
Justin, I couldn't have said it better than what you just said. The fact that Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and Google, they won't let us say what we want to say. So we had to have a podcast, and no one can stop us from saying what we want to say now. And that's the whole point of having this podcast and having this podcast network, is because we need to get this word out, and we can't be shadow banned or completely banned or censored. And some stuff that we say, we need to debate it. We need to debate it, and that's what the podcast is for. And so I'm glad you're on our team, and I'm never going to back down from a fight when it comes to that.
Love it, brother. And hopefully that you sometimes you got to wish what be careful what you wish for, because I've always said, if you get a letter from the FDA in our industry, it's kind of like, oh no, but then it's like, well, at least I'm on the radar, at least I'm making some noise, right? And if you get that call from a government agency, Dan, or whoever's out there trying to put pressure on you, my phone number, and we'll go to fight, and we'll call up Patrick and the boys and Hoban, and we'll go to war, man, because some of this stuff has to be fought through the courts. Some things when it can be fought with bayonets and guns and cannons back in the 1700s, or it can be fought in the courtrooms and on TV and social media like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, right? Sometimes things just need to be fought. That's a new way of fighting. And if that fight comes, then let's bring it on, because we're talking about people's lives here. We're talking about people's quality of life. We're talking about people having access to information that can allow them to be happy, that can allow them to be free from pain and anxiety and living with horrible, just pressure and weight, and that's what we've seen in so many people that have come to us in our physical stores or online or just in conversations we've met over the years. So the final gift that I want to give for everybody, I work with a great guy named John Gallard, met in the inner circle with Russell Brunson, and he helped. He was so gracious. He's such a great guy. And he heard our story and he heard our mission, and he had some success with helping things go viral. And that's yet another way for us to get our information out. So what I'm asking you as an audience member, as a listener to the podcast, as a person who's a part of this mission to heal the world, is to go to www.freecbdnow.com, and you just enter in your email address, and then you get an email, and it'll take you to a screen to share some links on Facebook or Twitter to let other people sign up. And if you get 5 people to sign up, just means enter your email address, right? There's no credit cards, there's no money. We just want more people to have access. And when you sign up your email and then 5 other people sign up because you share it on Facebook or Twitter, you get a free month's worth of our product. Whoa, that's it. And if you get 10 people to sign up, I think you get like 3 months worth of free. And if you get like 25 people to sign up, I think you get 6 months. And if you get 50 people to sign up, you get a year of CBD, and we'll be giving you some other cool prizes too. And it's all free, right? We're not asking you to enter in credit cards or any of that kind of stuff. All we're doing is trying to get the word out by literally giving the product away so people can try it, can learn about it, can see for themselves. So you can get up to a year of free product just by entering in your email address and sharing it on your social media. You can share it on any social media. Facebook and Twitter are the simplest ones, but whatever social media you're using, you can email it to friends, you know what I mean? You can do whatever you want. But as soon as more people enter their email addresses with your link, which is automatically applied, it's all super easy, just copy and paste, you have access to free CBD for a year. Again, it's our gift to you for being our audience member, and we wanted to celebrate the 100th episode. So there you have it. Access to free CBD. You're a part of the mission, and we're so excited that you tuned in to listen to this episode. And we've got so much more great stuff to come, so many more great guests, and there's so much gold sitting there in the podcast when you look back through the previous 100. So again, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank Dan. I want to thank Janet. I want to thank all the contributors and the interviewees, everybody that's had some part of this mission to heal the world, to reach 1 billion people by 2025. Any final words before we wrap up?
Just a big thank you to Dan and to you and everybody that's been involved. And I can't wait till we celebrate our 200th podcast.
Absolutely. And I'm also looking to our 420th podcast. It's always just kind of a fun number for me, but that's me. And I know it has different connotations for different people, but it is all part of the plan. And we all, have so much to thank for what this plan has provided. And the way that I look at it too, it's not just, yes, the CBD works great for pain. Yes, it works great for stress and anxiety. Yes, it works great for sleep, is what our clients tell us over and over and over again, and come back and buy more and more and more because it helps so much, is that it's a Pandora's box, right? It's opening the Pandora's box. It's like, oh my God, I took an oil that I thought was the devil's lettuce or reefer madness and all these things that I'd been conditioned and told, but when I rubbed the topical on my sore foot, the pain went away, and I didn't get high, and I didn't go to Alice in Wonderland, but actually I did take the red pill that opened me up to this whole new world that was right in front of my noses, the old school, right? Before pharmaceuticals, you are what you eat, right? And to start thinking about making more conscious decisions about your diet, about your exercise, about your mindfulness, about what you allow in your brain, your exercise, and your sleep. Those 5 pillars that we talk about here. So anyways, I do want to thank you for listening to the Miracle Plan podcast. And here's to the next 100 episodes. Here's to your health. Here's to getting the word out. Here's to getting some free CBD when you go to freecbdnow.com. And at the end of every episode, we say heal the world, because that is the mission, to heal the world. The world needs some healing, and we're here to heal it. So on the count of 3, let's say heal the world. 1, 2, 3. Heal the world! Woo-hoo! Thanks for swinging by the Miracle Plan podcast. We'll see you next week, 10 a.m. Pacific on Clubhouse.